The U.S. government shutdown has become one of the longest in history, delaying heating aid for millions, freezing new jobs, and putting national security on edge. Meanwhile, the White House looks abroad. Trump signals a possible fantastic deal with China, even as the U.S. builds an $8.5 billion rare earth alliance with Australia. Add to that a new government in Japan and a $150 billion U.S. Army funding shift, and the world's balance is moving fast. What does all this mean for the economy, for global trade, and for the American dream? Another day, another headline. But this week, America's shutdown story has grown into something far bigger. Airports are strained, national security is stretched, and now millions of Americans could face a winter heating crisis. The shutdown is becoming one of the longest in U.S. history. At the same time, the administration looks outward, chasing a new trade deal with China, funding the army through private capital, and watching Japan elect its first female prime minister. It's a week where politics, economics, and global power all collide. Let's break it down. 1. Energy aid delays. The shutdown's human cost, the $4 billion Low-Income Home Energy Assistance Program, known as LIHEAP, is now frozen. Because of furloughed staff and paused funding, millions of families waiting for winter heating help won't receive payments in time. That means households across northern states could face rising utility bills or debt as temperatures drop. This is the point where the shutdown stops being political theater and becomes personal. It's no longer about Washington gridlock. It's about heat, light, and stability for everyday Americans. Economists warn this could ripple through consumer spending, less disposable income, higher credit card use, and growing stress on state-level welfare programs. In other words, the shutdown's quiet victims are the ones who can least afford it. 2. The third longest shutdown in U.S. history. With Congress failing its 11th attempt to pass a funding bill, this shutdown is now officially the third longest ever recorded, following 2018-2019's 35-day standoff and the 1995 Clinton-era shutdown. Nearly 900,000 federal workers remain furloughed, many more working without pay. Air traffic control, border security, small business loans, and national park operations are all disrupted. History gives us a warning. During the 2019 shutdown, GDP growth dropped by 0.1% per week, consumer confidence fell, and long-term projects took months to recover. If this one continues, the economic scars could be deeper, because this time it's overlapping with slower hiring, tighter credit, and global supply chain strain. The longer Washington stays silent, the louder the consequences will sound in the real economy. 3. Hiring slows. Policy gridlock freezes. Opportunity Fresh labor data show job creation in the U.S. has collapsed, from more than 120,000 new positions per month earlier this year to barely 25,000 now. Business leaders blame policy uncertainty, shrinking immigration pipelines, and suspended federal contracts. Sectors like construction, transportation, and tech are cooling fast. For working Americans, that means fewer openings, slower wage growth, and shrinking optimism, the exact opposite of what fuels the American dream. Analysts at Barron's note, the economy is not falling apart, but it's stalling, not because of consumers, but because of policy. When uncertainty becomes policy, the private sector pulls back. 4. Trade tensions and global shifts. The China factor in global politics, all eyes turn to Donald Trump's remarks this week. He said he expects a fantastic deal with China's President Xi Jinping. That's despite the looming November 1st deadline for steep new tariffs and China's continued export controls on rare earth materials. This comes right after Washington signed its $8.5 billion minerals alliance with Australia, meant to reduce dependence on China for rare earth supplies. Analysts say these two tracks, confronting China while courting it, define the paradox of modern trade. The U.S. wants resilience without isolation, competition without escalation. For the American economy, this balancing act matters. Rare earths power everything from electric vehicles to defense systems. If China retaliates or slows exports, costs could rise sharply across tech and energy industries. The stakes are high. and every move in this minerals chess game can shift jobs, prices, and strategic influence. 5. The Army's $150 billion private capital push while Congress remains frozen. The Pentagon is moving. Reports say the U.S. Army and the Treasury Department are working with major private equity firms to launch a $150 billion infrastructure revamp, covering housing, logistics, and modernization. The idea, if Congress won't fund it, Wall Street might. It's a creative but controversial solution. Critics warn it blurs the line between public defense and private profit. Supporters argue it will speed up modernization and create new skilled jobs. Either way, it marks a turning point. National security financed not just by taxpayers but by investors. For everyday Americans, it could mean new contracts, new construction, and more debt-financed defense, all of which shape inflation, employment, and the economy's future direction. 6. A new leader in Japan. Global ripples across the Pacific. Japan made history today, electing Sanai Takaichi as its first female prime minister. Known for her conservative pro-U.S. stance, she's expected to deepen defense and trade cooperation with Washington. Analysts see this as stabilizing for the Indo-Pacific alliance at a time of tension with China. For the U.S., that means stronger military coordination, smoother semiconductor trade, and a more assertive regional partner, all key to counterbalancing Beijing's influence. In short, a leadership change in Tokyo may quietly reinforce America's own strategic positioning. 7. What it all means for the American dream. The American dream has always been built on mobility, opportunity, and trust in the system. But when that system slows, when the government stalls, hiring freezes, energy aid vanishes, and the world shifts beneath our feet, the dream begins to wobble. Still, there's resilience here. Markets haven't crashed. Supply chains are adapting. Allies are strengthening ties. But the longer the paralysis in Washington lasts, the harder it becomes to believe in forward motion. Because the dream doesn't survive on hope alone, it runs on policy, progress, and confidence. Closing, so as America faces its third longest shutdown, rising energy worries, and a world redrawing alliances, the question is, will this gridlock end in time to save momentum? Or will it mark the moment when politics finally strangled growth? If you found this breakdown useful, hit subscribe and follow for the next episode. Can America cut rates, keep growth, and prevent a policy-driven recession? Because in today's world, the real threat isn't just inflation or trade wars. It's uncertainty itself. Thanks for watching. And subscribe for more.